Namaskar, everybody. Nishon welcomes you once again to our webinar, which is being almost being done at least on average once per week. And we've been having very interesting topics for the last 3-4 weeks. And today the topic is scientific paper writing and art and skill. This is by Dr. Praveen Sestra, who is our previous editor-in-chief of Nepal Journal of Neurosciences. And I'm sure we are all very lucky to hear him talk on this topic because he's one of the most experienced person regarding this topic itself. So with these few words, I'd like to, I wouldn't say anything much more because we all know Dr. Praveen Sestra. So I'd like to thank you once again for giving your time to attending this webinar. And I will request our speaker, Dr. Praveen Sestra, to kindly start his topic on scientific paper writing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yam, as a moderator, and another co-moderator, Dr. Pankaj, and with the kind consent from our seniors, Dr. Mohan Sharma, our past president of Nation. I would like to start my presentation now. So my topic is, as you all know, scientific paper writing, art and skill. Well, it's a vast topic. I don't know how I can summarize this within a short span of time, but even then I will try to make it concise and precise and try to present it in a best simple way as far as possible. Coming to the introduction part, paper writing. So what is paper writing? I don't know how can I exactly define the topic, this paper writing, but in a very simple way, I can say it's a reporting of new results. Many studies are going on every day and many results are coming. So reporting of old results may not be of any meaning, of any value for us. So it's a reporting of new results. Definitely there are objectives and aims and objectives of reporting these new results. So the main objectives of paper writing or reporting new results are to disseminate the information to the larger community, to make pool of knowledge within a discipline. More studies, more results, and there is a bigger pool of knowledge and information. So ultimately, it helps to others to interpret their own experimental results. So as there are many results in a particular discipline, so many authors will try to compare their experiment results with each other. And the meaning of these results may be different, while comparing to others. So it helps to interpret the experimental results and ultimately to establish newer theories, newer concepts, and newer practices in a society. So paper writing has become a basic and vital task for all the professional individuals, especially more so in medical field. It starts from the early stage of any individual's career, and it keeps on going till the end stage of a career. A scientist will be well recognized on the basis of the researches he has conducted, he or she has conducted, and on the basis of the papers he or she has produced. Some people have, hobby of writing papers. I still remember many Japanese professors, they have hobby. Paper writing is their hobby, especially whenever they travel by train or plane. They open their laptop and they start working, and by the time they reach their destination in few hours, they finish a big chunk of part of the paper writing. So for some people, it may be a hobby. In Nepal also, it is getting better. Paper writing is becoming a regular academic activities, and also to some extent compulsion for especially graduation, also for the for holding a specific academic position in an institute. And even the private hospitals are coming up with more academic activities and more studies, more research, and more paper writing. So in very brief, these steps of paper research, I don't want to go in detail because previously Dr. Mohan Sharma has already covered this topic. So just briefly, first step is stating aims and objectives of the study. Second step is choosing the appropriate study design. Then comes defining the target population and study participants, estimating the sample size, deciding statistical tools for data collection and data analysis, performing appropriate statistical analysis, and finally making conclusions on the basis of results and communicating this conclusion and results with everybody else. So now coming to the clinical study, I'm talking a little bit about this clinical study because on the basis of these studies, this background, then we finally produce a paper. So these are like, basics for the paper writing. So basically there are two types of clinical studies. One is called observational study, which is also called non-experimental study. In this study, the investigators, they study the outcomes in a group of participants without any intervention. There may be some interventions like medical products or some devices, but these are used as a routine procedure. So there is no specific intervention in this study, and that's why it is also called non-experimental study. Second type of study is interventional study, which is also called clinical trials or experimental study, in which a specific type of intervention is introduced. For example, studying COVID-19 pandemic in Nepal can be a simply observational study. But if we use certain medicines to control COVID-19 pandemic in Nepal, then it becomes some sort of interventional study. So interventions can be a drug, device, a procedure, surgical or non-surgical procedures, changing particular behavior of a participant like diet, exercise, or smoking. So basically observational study and intervention study. So this is a chart about the epidemiologic studies that I copied from a website. Basically observational, non-experimental study, and interventional experimental study. So case control is cross-sectional study, case control study, and cohort study. These are the examples of observational study, whereas randomized control trial or non-randomized control trial are the examples of interventional studies. Sometimes studies also are divided in multiple phases, especially those studies which are involved in innovating or developing newer medical products. So for such studies, these phase trials are done. Phase 1 trial is a small trial, and then phase 2, 3 are bigger trials, including bigger groups and including bigger criteria of trial. And then comes phase 4 trial. This is a post-marketing trial to see the feasibility in terms of patients or in terms of the prescribers. So for example, this temozolomide, one of the newer medicine for brain tumor chemotherapy, similar types of trials were done, and finally it was brought into the practice. So these are the different phases of trials, clinical trials. Now coming to the articles or studies, basically these are 4 types of articles in any journal you can find. Letter to editor, case reports, review articles, and original articles. However, depending upon the journals, depending upon types of journals, there can be some other extra special columns other than these articles. For example, in case of NJNS, Nepal Journal of Neuroscience, there is another special column that is called Neuro View Box, in which journal editor board invites typical cases with typical neuroimaging findings or typical any other clinical pathological findings. So these types of extra columns can be available depending on the journals, but these are the main common ones. So letter to editor, this is nothing but it's a means of communication between author of an article and the reader of a journal. So whenever an author publishes an article, then there can be many other comments against the article or in favor of the article. So if you have similar opinions, if you have similar results, then you can write in favor of the article. But if you have totally opposite findings, then you can write against the article. So whatever you write in this letter of editor column, you need to have enough and strong evidences to support your writings, may it be against the article or maybe in favor of that particular article. Similarly, case reports, it's a simple article, simplest one probably, and it is usually written by the juniors, but of course it can also be written by the seniors if the case is very, very special, very typical, very rare, like that. And if we write a case report, there must be something particular about the diagnosis or presentation or investigation findings or treatment. If there is nothing special in these things, then there is no meaning of reporting a case as a case report. And a case report must be able to give some additional lesson, additional message to the readers. For example, there was an article in this COVID pandemic that was an article on COVID-19 meningoencephalitis. In most of the cases, COVID-19 affects upper respiratory tract, and then it produces different other systemic complications. But in that particular case, it was COVID-19 meningoencephalitis that was detected in Japan. And in that particular case, nasopharyngeal swab was negative for coronavirus, but CSF was positive. So that was very special case, and that was the special case report in during this pandemic as far as neurological complications are concerned. So that should be like a case report, and case report should contain details of these things, clinical features, investigations, diagnosis, and treatment. And that case report also should contain appropriate figures. Without appropriate figures, sometimes it becomes like evidence-less. So to make it more evident, we need to produce appropriate figures to support the case report. Similarly, review article, it is one of the most popular articles that everybody wants to read most of the time. It is a critical evaluation of previously published works on a specific topic. And it's quite popular among the readers. A lot of information and complete information is usually available in review article. And this review article should include a story, which should be based on the facts and it should be published story. It should contain point of view, that means it should contain analysis by the author. And it should contain a theme, that means it should be conclusive, it should give some conclusion message to the readers. It should be idea driven, it should be experience driven, and the author should be able to analyze different published works in that particular topic. Usually this review article is written by seniors or experts who already have adequate experiences, who already have many publications in the concerned field. For example, if we write a review article in neurosurgery in Nepal or history of neurosurgical development in Nepal, probably I may not be the appropriate author for that, because we need to have somebody who has really experienced those old days of neurosurgery in Nepal. So somebody senior, somebody expert, somebody who has adequate experience, somebody who has adequate publication in that field should write review articles. Sometimes even the journal may request authors to write it. So journals may request the experienced people to write review articles in that particular subject matter. And sometimes the reviews are written by the institutions or organizations like WHO. And these institutes, when they write reviews, they finally produce guidelines and protocols through these review articles. Original article is one of the most difficult articles. It is a study, it is a research, it is an investigation. So it is one of the most difficult and need to be perfect to get published in a good journal. It should follow proper methodology. It should contain all these segments, including introduction, methods, results, discussions, and conclusions. Usually, original articles must be conclusive, or the results of original articles must be statistically significant. If it is not so, then it may be difficult for the article to be accepted in a good journal. For example, if there is a factor A, which is commonly seen in any type of brain tumor, and we want to study whether that factor A is prognostic in case of particular brain tumor or not. So if the statistical analysis doesn't show any significant effect on that particular brain tumor, effect of that factor A, so the study may not be that conclusive. So the study or the research may not be that interesting, so it may not be published. But sometimes, even if the study is not conclusive, or sometimes even if the result is not statistically significant, that may be of significant interest. For example, if there are many, let's say there are many articles about factor A and its impact in the outcome of gliomatous or any type of brain tumor. Some studies say it is a good prognostic factor, some studies say it is a bad or worse prognostic factor, and there is no conclusive. And in such cases, is a bigger studies done with meta-analysis. And in such situation, even if the data of such studies doesn't show any statistically significant result, that may be a good conclusion, saying that factor A is not related to the outcome of that particular brain tumor in any respect. So that may be a good conclusion, so that further study on factor A impacting brain tumor may not be done, because that study has proved that factor A doesn't play any role in the outcome of that particular brain tumor. Anyway, but the original article should be conclusive with statistically significant result as far as possible. So while writing paper, certain segments which has to be strictly followed. These are the main segments: title, authors, abstract, keywords, introduction, matters and methods, results, discussions, and conclusions. Regarding title, title should be such that it should best describe the whole article. So it should be a single sentence title. It should be complete with fewest possible words. We should avoid unnecessary words, and we should mention the specific things if it is there. For example, if we want to study pandemic, COVID pandemic in southern part of Nepal, then we should mention that it's the southern part of Nepal in the title. So if any such specific things are used, for example, chemicals, any system, any geographical location, region, that has to be mentioned in the title. And title should not be vague. It should not contain any marks like question marks. It should not contain anything like exclamation marks. If such types of things are there in the title, then the reader may not be able to understand what this title is really willing to say. So it has to be perfect and complete title. Coming to authors, regarding the number of authors in any type of article, usually there is no limitation, but it also depends on the type of the article. Sometimes we see that the article is a case report, very interesting case report, but there are 10 authors. So if there are 10 authors in a simple case report or good case report, it is a bit unusual. So editors may say reduce the number of authors. So 2, 3 or maximum 4 authors will be suitable for the case report. Whereas in case of good research article, original article or meta-analysis, there can be many authors, or there can be even many institutions, and each institution may be represented by many authors. So in case of original article, there can be many authors. However, I don't think there is exact limitation of number of authors in such scientific papers. Authorship should include and should not miss main contributors. Whatever the type of article may be, the main contributor should not be missed. This should be included. And whenever we submit the article, we should mention complete name and qualification of all the authors. Most of the papers are submitted online, and in that online there is a format in which we have to write all these details. Without mentioning all these details, it cannot be submitted. So everybody knows that. We should also include institute and address where the study was carried out. And we should also write contact address, including email address for the corresponding authors. Keywords, another important aspect of the paper. So keywords should be best describing the study. It should describe study in the best possible way, so that it also helps to locate or search the article. So our article for a particular author. So if the keywords are very good, then it helps to locate your paper. So in keywords, the words which are not included in title should be used if possible. So that with the help of keywords and with the help of title, authors should be able to represent whole of his or her study or the paper. Usually there is a limit of words in the keywords, usually 3 to 5. And depending upon the journal, it should be arranged alphabetically in some, and in some no need of arranging alphabetically. Abstract is the main component of the paper, and whenever we search any paper, we find this abstract only in many cases. We may not have any access to the whole article. At that time, abstract from abstract we can get almost all the information about that particular paper. So abstract should be such that it should be able to represent the whole paper, whole study. So it should be concise and precise. And while writing abstract, if it is possible to write in 100 words, why to use 200 words? That means it has to be as concise and precise as possible. It should also include subdivisions. Usually the word limit is around 250 or less. It should not contain details of methods, statistical analysis, acronyms, references, figures, and tables. Some authors, they include figures and tables and references in the abstract. So in abstract, usually these things have to be avoided. Abbreviations are of course used in paper, but it should be avoided as far as possible, because some authors, they use abbreviations for each and every word. Abbreviations should be used for only those which are repeatedly appearing in the text. So these words, for these words, abbreviation has to be used, and for those words with significant importance in the article. Otherwise, better to avoid abbreviations. And abbreviation should always be preceded by its full form when it appears first time in the text. Coming to introduction, it is a vital part of a paper. Sometimes it seems that authors, they are confused what to write in introduction, what to write in discussion portion, like that. So there are clear things that has to be mentioned in introduction segment, and the things that has to be included in the discussion segment. So introduction is basically a background highlighting the significance of study. So with introduction part, we should be able to say what we are going to study in that particular research. So there must be references which are relevant to the study. We can include good or most commonly cited references. And at the end of this introduction portion, we should state the objective of the study. May it be a case report, may it be any original article, we should mention why we are conducting this study. In case of a case report also, why we are presenting this particular case, what is the interesting things about this particular case, like that we have to mention at the end of introduction portion. We should avoid list with points and bullets. In fact, these things has to be avoided. Points and bullets listing has to be avoided in any part of the paper, not only in introduction. And readers must be able to have an idea after reading this introduction. The reader must have an idea of where the paper is heading towards. So we should be able to lead the readers by this introduction portion. Methods and methods, very important. We should give all the details of process of study, research. It should include objective of the study, date, duration, and institution of the study. Human resources, types, everything has to be clearly mentioned. For example, regarding human resources or animals that are used in this particular study, I remember one study which was presented in one of the international conference just a few years back. In that study, dogs were used as the in that research. So at the end of the presentation, there was a very big debate why dogs were used, because in most of the research studies in the world, dogs are usually not used. Only particular, these animals like guinea pigs or mouses, they are used. But when dogs were used, it was a big issue. So these things has to be clearly mentioned in methods and methods. Similarly, this should include statistical software and tools used. It should include inclusion criteria, exclusion criteria. It should contain appropriate references. And usually figures and tables are usually not required in this segment in methods and methods. But sometimes if we quote something, protocols or guidelines, then in that case, we can use figures or tables in this methods and methods segment. It also should contain details of study of population and study data. Result is one of the main segments of any paper. It should include details of result of study. It should include figures and tables. If it is a bit complicated original articles, studies, research, then it should be divided into multiple segments. This section is basically the section of the author. This is this result is the section of what the author has concluded, or what the author has gained as a result of his study. So this section should not contain external things or honored things. This section should contain only those things which the author found at the end of his study, in the form of tables and figures. He has to present it very nicely. Discussion portion is very, very important. This is the interpretation and justification of a study. So whenever we do studies, conduct studies, and finally we have result, then finally we discuss. So this is the interpretation, how your research was able to give the result, how you justify the results. So this has to be included in discussion. This is basically a combination or summary of introduction, methodology, and results. Some authors, they simply copy whatever they have written in introduction portion. They write the same thing in the discussion portion also. That is not the correct way. But definitely it should include part of the introduction, but part of the methodology and result as well. And authors should be able to address all the questions or hypotheses that were included in the study. And this discussion portion should contain comparison of a study with others. How your study is different from others. How your study is similar or different from others. Why your study is better or perfect. Why your study deserves publication. All these things has to be clearly mentioned in discussion. Discussion portion is something like, presentation done or made by a lawyer in a court. It should be like that. When a lawyer presents a case in court in front of the judge, he presents in such a way that as if his client is not at all guilty. All the points are in favor of his clients. Usually the lawyer present in that way. So discussion is the same thing. So we have to write with a very good flow, with a very good language, without any interruption. Everything has to be written in such a perfect way so that all of your work has been well justified and well proven with the help of this methodology and everything. So discussion should contain the points of limitations also. If, of course, in a study there can be limitations because of certain factors. If those things could not be included, these things has to be clearly mentioned in the discussion segment. And it should not always, but sometimes should also, it should usually not contain any figure table in the discussion portion. But sometimes if you would like to quote certain things, then you can put a figure also. For example, in this COVID pandemic, China has made a very nice categorization of COVID-19 patients. They have categorized COVID-19 patients in mild, moderate, severe, and critical cases. So if we conduct similar type of study in Nepal, then maybe we can put that, and we can mention that in discussion with the help of the figure of that classification of COVID-19 disease. So this discussion is the most vital portion of the original articles, which can be a deciding factor for acceptance or rejection by the editorial team. So conclusions. This is not the conclusion of this presentation, but the conclusion of any conclusion segment of any paper. So conclusion can be a separate section, or it can be written in the end of discussion portion. It should contain a few lines with take-home messages, including the results. But it should not contain references. It should not contain tables and figures. Many authors, especially the juniors, they still include tables, figures, and references. Usually, this segment doesn't contain these things. Declarations, disclosures, acknowledgements should be mentioned appropriately. And then referencing. So at the end of the article or the manuscript, there is a list of published articles which are cited in the article in the text. By citing other articles, we give evidence of information that we collected for our study. So it gives the evidence. By this, we also give credit to the original investigator or original writer, author. By this referencing, we help to locate that particular the article which has been cited. And sometimes we also combat plagiarism by properly citing. We avoid these allegations about plagiarism or copying. Reference can or should be include author's name. It depends on journal to journal. Different types of journal, they have different formats. But usually reference contains author's name, date, publishing company, journal, title, and TOI. And referencing or citing, there are different styles in the word. For example, this AP, American Psychological Assessment, is mainly used by education, psychology, or other basic sciences. In medical field, Harvard and Vancouver system are the ones which are more commonly used. So basically, two referencing styles in medical field. One is parenthetical citation and is numerical citation. Parenthetical citation is also known as Harvard referencing, or also known as author date system. It includes author's last name and the year of publication with or without page number, and it is enclosed in the parenthesis and mentioned directly in the text at the end of a sentence. It is mentioned there. So there is no numbering. There is this name and year of publication. It has basically two parts. So this directly including in the text is called in-text citation. Besides, at the end of the article, there is a reference list with all these bibliographic details of the references, so that if the reader wants to see the details of that cited article, he or she can take it from this list. The other style of referencing is numerical citation, which is also called Vancouver system, also known as author number system. And in this citation, in the text, they give only a number. At the end of sentence, there is only a number, nothing else. And this, there is a listing of the references. There are two types of, two techniques of listing of references in this system. One is in the alphabetical order. Another is in the order of appearance. If one article appears in the one reference appears first time, then that becomes number one. Then serially number 2, 3, 4, and like that. And citing is also can be done as a superscripted number like this, or it can be the number included in the bracket like this. So tables and figures, I hope many of us already know about these things. Few things to mention. Tables and figures should be appropriately made. Each of them should be numbered and appropriate captions should be given. Well, tables, figures can be made in Excel, PowerPoint, Word, and they can be saved as a JPEG. All tables and figures must be quoted in the text. I have seen in many articles, especially by the juniors, there are many figures or tables, but they are not quoted in the text. So any table or a figure has to be quoted or cited in the text in manuscript. Otherwise, that table or figure doesn't have any meaning. And also sometimes regarding number of figures and tables, there is no specific limitation, but sometimes I have seen in a case report, there are tens of figures, maybe more. So in case of case report, there should be less figures or tables, usually figures in case report, 1, 2, or 3, not many. But if it is an original article, there can be many tables and figures. Captions has to be given, and captions should be just brief explanation. I have seen caption of a figure table contains all the details as in case of text. So details should be only in the text, and captions should contain only the brief explanation of that particular table or figure. And it should not contain details. So this is almost end about paper writing. So the next smaller part is about ethical writing and misconduct. Probably in about another 10 minutes, I'll be finishing this thing. So in any type of article made with case report or original article, there must be ethics and there must be originality. Philip Collin, who is a very popular writer, author, professor of English literature, he once said that ethical writing should be clear, accurate, fair, and honest. It should not be copied from others, and it should not contain false data. And there must be appropriate acknowledgement to make the whole writing ethical. If these things are not there, then it becomes a misconduct. And misconduct can be probably defined with these M's, 3 M's: manipulation, misquotation, and mispresentation. If these things are there, it becomes a misconduct. But it seems that there are no internationally accepted definitions, because depending upon countries, some countries take this misconduct as a very big issue in paper writing, and some do not. For example, USA and Denmark, they are one of the countries where misconduct is taken very, very strictly. Whereas countries like Sweden, which is nearby Denmark in the Scandinavian region, they don't take it that strictly. Whatever it may be, scientific misconduct is the intentional violation of standard codes and ethical behavior in paper writing. If there is fabricating of the study, manipulation of the data, adjustment of the calculations, then it becomes a scientific misconduct. So misconduct can be at different stages of paper writing. It can be in the beginning of the paper writing, it can be at the end of paper writing, it can be just before publication, or sometimes it can be even after the publication. So whenever there is a misconduct after publication, the editors are the ones, he is the one, she is the one who should take all the allegations of misconduct if it is published. There are basically two levels of misconduct. One is called FFP, that is fabricate, falsify, and plagiarism. And there is QRP, which is a milder form of misconduct, questionable research practices. FFP is rare, not so common. It is found in about 1% of total writing. Whereas QRP is more common, it is found in almost 34% of cases. It is milder, not that severe. But even though it's milder, it can still damage reputation of researchers, reputation of research community, and ultimately the reputation of the whole society. These are different types of misconducts. Plagiarism, I think everybody knows it. A simple meaning of plagiarism is copying from others. Taking over the ideas, methods, written words, written words without the proper acknowledgement is called plagiarism. And this term plagiarism is applied not only in case of written documents, but also in verbal presentation or presentation by any AV media. For example, now I am presenting this presentation on paper writing. I have collected information, I have quoted here in so many places, so many information I have collected from other sources. Without proper acknowledgement, if I present like this, then it also becomes a kind of plagiarism. So plagiarism is one of the most serious crimes in the academic field. Another misconduct is self-plagiarism. Plagiarism is copying from others, but self-plagiarism is copying something from oneself. Copying something from one's previous study, writing, and presenting it again as a new article or notion or a message without citing or acknowledging the previous one, then it becomes self-plagiarism. It is also called text recycling. It means duplicating the same article and it gives the false impression to the others. Salami slicing, it has two components, data augmentation and data defragmentation. Data augmentation means modifying the previous study, one's own study or study of somebody else, just by adding few items, few extra cases, few extra data, few extra analysis. For example, if we analyze COVID-19 pandemic in terms of gender, in terms of age, in terms of cultures, in terms of some geographical locations, if that is the original article. So de-augmentation means we in the same study we add few extra cases, few extra number of analysis, then we make it a bigger study just by adding this few extra cases. So this is called data augmentation. But data defragmentation means breaking a bigger study. So we have done a study on COVID-19 in Nepal, including all those factors. Then we break it. We do only analysis of age and sex distribution, only the analysis of geographical distribution of COVID-19. Then it becomes a breaking of that bigger study. It is known as data defragmentation, and this is called salami slicing. However, the same cases or same data can be used for totally different purpose also. If we take the same source of information, so same data and cases of COVID-19 patients in Nepal, but if we use that data for let's say effect of any particular medicine like remdesivir or any other antiviral, then this is okay. This is not a misconduct. We can use the same data for a totally different purpose also. Falsifying, when a totally false data are used, false statistical tools or results are used, that is called falsifying. This is one of the biggest crime in paper writing. This misconduct can be found. So whenever editors or editor board suspects of this falsifying, they can find it out by communicating with other co-authors. So here comes the importance or significance of co-authors. By communicating with other co-authors, the editors can find out whether there is really a misconduct or not, whether there is falsifying or not. Sometimes there is questionable citing. So citing, the cited reference can be unreliable, can be obsolete data. So this is a kind of misconduct. Sometimes the cited reference is very good source, but that is totally irrelevant. This is also kind of misconduct. So this is questionable citing. Selective misquoting, increasing, decreasing, exaggerating, altering, or omitting others' data, distorting us or misrepresenting someone's words or data. So this completely changes the meaning of the whole study. So this is selective misquoting, which is a misconduct again. Impropriety of authorship, excluding contributors from the co-authorship, or including co-contributors, non-contributors as a co-author. Somebody is included in the authorship who has not at all contributed. Somebody has been excluded, but he was one of the significant contributors. So this thing also misconduct. Submitting multi-author in the papers without consent from all other co-authors. Without the consent from other co-authors, if we add multi-authors, then also it becomes a misconduct. Failure to comply with legislative and regulatory requirements. For example, this is a willful violation of rules. For example, different chemicals were used in the study, which is actually legally not permitted. Illegal medicines has been used, or the humans or animals have been used, or there is misuse of certain investigative drugs, or misuse of the research funds. Then again, this becomes a misconduct. Failure to support validation of your research. If there is a doubt of misconduct, then the editorial board or editors may ask for the complete data set or the complete research material from the author. And if the author refuses to supply this data or research material, then it becomes a misconduct. Similarly, if there is a suspicion of misconduct and the author fails to cooperate, if he or she destroys all the evidence of the misconduct, then again it becomes a big issue and big misconduct. So these are basically about ethical writing and misconduct. So this is the conclusion of this presentation. Paper writing is an art. We must develop it, and it comes with experience. It doesn't come once. The more you write, more you get experience, and better will be the your papers in future. The basic ethics and rules have to be followed, otherwise it will be a misconduct. So the ultimate aim and goal of the research and study is publication. If your study is very good with very good statistical analysis and very good result, but if not published, then there is no meaning of the study. Well, I think this is this much about paper writing. Thank you very much. Stay safe, stay sound, stay strong, stay healthy, and stay happy. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, this much about my presentation today.
Thank you, Praveen. That was a nice presentation from your side. And I was looking for some questions, and Yamdai actually asked for the question. Is there any questions? There is nothing in the chat room. So, for Praveen, I have just a query for your presentation.
Mm-hmm.
So, for beginners who start to write articles or start their writing, especially during their residency, like writing thesis.
Yeah.
So how would you suggest to increase their guts of writing the articles? Because most of the time we are actually afraid of writing it.
Yeah. So as I was said, it's in that sense, it's a compulsion that writing should be, a part of our graduation or part of our whole, postgraduate training. So everybody should learn writing. I would like to suggest very good question actually you raised. First, before writing, you should choose the topic, and at the same time, you also should choose the journal. If you are doing very good studies and in research, then probably you can choose one of the best journals in the world. If you are writing something in Nepalese context, then probably you can choose NJNS, Nepal Journal of Neuroscience. And this is a practical thing. I don't know whether I should say or not, but writing the reports, conducting research and writing reports should probably go hand in hand, especially for the juniors. So while writing, he should follow articles in the same journal in which he is planning to submit the article. If it is a case report, if it is a original article or whatever article it may be, if he or she is planning to submit in NJNS, so what I would like to suggest is get a sample of articles in that particular journal and go through those articles published in that journal. If you are planning to write a case report, go through the case report in that journal. if you're planning to write original article, go through the original articles published in that particular journal, so that roughly you will understand the format of that journal. And in the same way, you should, while writing the report at the end of your study or investigation research, you should follow the same pattern of that journal. So while reviewing, the editors mainly will look a few things. One of those things is whether you have properly followed the pattern of that journal or not. So as I suggested, if you already know the pattern of the format, basic format of article in that particular journal, you will know that by going through the articles already published. Then you will when you complete from the same thing, you should follow strictly actually A to Z, where there should be bold, where there should not be any bold, capitalization, non-capitalization. So everything has to be strictly followed, and that gives you the hints of possibility if your article will be published in that journal or not. So by getting and going through a sample article of that particular journal, you will know a lot. I think that will be a better idea, a good idea for the juniors.
Thank you, Praveen. May I speak?
Azhar, thank you very much, Krishna. Welcome.
What is the difference between take-home message and conclusion? Are they the same thing, or you have to write the both, or you may not write a take-home message and just write a conclusion?
Well, to me, probably it is same because results are results. Results cannot be conclusion. Results cannot be take-home message. So results can be a part of conclusion. So conclusion and take-home message probably may be the same. Conclusion may include many of the result finding of the research, finding of the study. So take-home message can be something beyond the result, beyond the conclusion. So take-home message can be overall the way that you should conduct research. Take-home message can be the results that you found in your study, or take-home message can be the conclusion that you have made. So in a way, it can be synonymous to conclusion. In a way, take-home message can be more concise and more precise form of conclusion. I don't know exactly, but maybe the same, maybe more concise and precise form of conclusion is take-home message. Probably, I think so.
Thank you. And one more, do you always have to write the disclaimer, like I have nothing to disclose, or those kind of things?
Well, I don't think so. But many articles they write, even if they don't have anything to declare or disclose, they write it. Many articles they don't write it. So as far as I know, there is no compulsion. It's not necessary that every time you should write it. If nothing to disclose or declare, probably you don't need to write anything. If there is something, then you can write.
Okay, there is a question from Manish. Thank you very much, sir, for the useful presentation. I have one question regarding misconduct after publication. Recently, there was an incident regarding FCQ in COVID published in the Lancet, and in the Lancet, and same author involved in another publication, ARB and AC inhibitors, published in NEJM. Both papers were later retracted after publication. So does this responsibility lies on the editors also? Similar was a past case with Obokata from Japan, published in Nature. Does that responsibility lie just on editors on this?
Yeah, many times, surprisingly, we come across many this type of misconducts, even by the world-renowned authors and writers, researchers. So that's why I found that the frequency of this type of major misconducts is about 1%, and minor misconducts is about 34%. So definitely there comes a question: who is responsible for this misconduct? Only authors? Both authors and editors, or only editors? Definitely author is the one who should be responsible for that. But as far as I know, editors are also equally responsible for that, because many of us, we edit, we review many articles. Whenever we review article, on the basis of our review, the editors also decide whether to accept or not. If the reviewers give the false impression to the editors, and on the basis of those reviews, if the editors accept the article to be published for the publication, then not only editors, even reviewers are also responsible for the this misconduct. So whenever there are misconducts, small or bigger, major or minor, in addition to the author, not only editors, even the reviewers are responsible. So reviewing is also equally responsible part, and we should be very, very careful. Of course, editors are also responsible for that.
And now I think that's perfectly said. There is another question from Dr. Narendra. Why articles are made only fast track tools to get academic promotions? This compulsion is dragging people to alter data. Yes, that's
Yeah, I don't know exactly. I think it should be answered by Professor Mohan Sharma, who is associated with many such academic activities in neurosurgery in Nepal. Professor Mohan Sharma, would you like to give your suggestions, please, in this
Okay.
question?
What was the question?
Sir, I'll repeat the question once again. Why articles are made only fast track tools to get academic promotions? This compulsion is dragging people to alter data.
Yeah, that's excellent question. Before I answer his question, I congratulate Praveen for excellent presentation. I would have exactly done the same. Hey, Praveen, you have done commendable job. As the editor-in-chief of the NJNS, you have covered most of the thing. Only comment I have about your presentation was about the number of figure and table. Now the mainstream journals usually restrict the number of figure and table to 6 maps, 7 maximum, and they recommend at least one, not more than one table or one figure per page. That's the only one thing I would have added. Otherwise, I really congratulate. It was very succinct presentation covering almost all aspects. It's a huge topic. People usually do 3-day courses on how to write paper, and in the morning they will take class, and in the afternoon they will do workshop. But we've done all. About Narendra's question, yes, it's one of the driving force. Actually, it is the mandatory nature of the article that article gets written. Research is done. But sometimes, you get the pressure that, okay, unless you have 2 articles as a lead author, your promotion will stop. And sometimes you get the pressure. But we as editors should resist it. If article is really bad, you should not give in to those kind of pressure. A couple of times we have actually stopped, those article, and one of the person who was associate professor could not become professor just last year at the Institute of Medicine. And one of the MCS resident could not sit in the final exam some 4 years ago just because he did not have a paper. So it's not that somebody needs promotion or somebody needs to sit in the final exam and we publish. But sometimes we become lenient. If the article research is good enough to be published, then sometimes we do fast tracking. But it's not a universal phenomenon. Aranda, does that answer your question?
Maybe you have done it, sir, very nicely. And I can see that Dr. Amit Thapa wants to make some comments if there is no question. So I think he can proceed with some comments.
Yeah, thank you, Pankaj. Well, thank you, Dr. Praveen, for a very nice presentation. And you had made our lives very easy by having a lot of succinct presentation on how to write a good paper. Well, I conjure on everything, including the thank you note, which includes 8S for stay safe, stay sound, stay strong. Except for the fact that the whole idea is to have a high impact paper, unless until it is not achievable. If you have a high impact paper, for me, writing a paper and not having a single citation of your work is basically embarrassing. So if you're writing a paper and you do not have a citation of your own paper, not even a single citation, then it becomes very bad. So this means that you're just publishing for the sake of publishing rather than having an impact on the academic world. So the whole idea of writing should be to write a high impact paper, at least in our scenario, in our community or in our national scenario. If in case it's possible, international, definitely yes. Well, just a few things I need to add to your presentation is regarding the finding the keywords. As you rightly put up, the keywords are the main thing about how your paper is being researched in the academia. So the best idea would be to get the keywords from the MESH, that is medical subject heading category from NMN National Library of Medicine website. So one can access that website and can punch in those words which are thinking to put in as a keywords in your study. If in case you use the mesh keywords, then that becomes highly citable, and your research paper will actually come out with anybody punches those keywords in the net. Second thing is like regarding the use of DOI in the references. Well, nowadays DOI is becoming mandatory in most of the references when we are citing, for two reasons. The first reason is that that becomes a verifiable reference. So by just clicking on the DOI, anybody can look at the references which you are quoting and can actually see whether the references you are quoting is right or not. And that's why you can actually cross-check in your text also whether these references you are quoting is for the correct thing, or it has just been made like that. Apart from that, I just like to put it regarding the a new category which Nepal Journal of Neurosciences has introduced regarding the short communication. Well, this was created because I could see a lot of original articles which were being published. It did not have good statistical analysis or were not creating any hypothesis to support or to argue against. And that becomes an issue for any journal to be PubMed index, because they go for quality of research paper. And henceforth, if you are declaring any paper as an original article or for that matter research article, then you have to say that the quality of the work is good enough. And that can be spoken only if in case you are testing an hypothesis or you're giving an statistical analysis. So that's why this category of short communication was created. So to accommodate those papers we're talking about the data from their own hospital or from their series, so that is also a data, so it cannot be discarded. But then only thing is that it cannot fit into original article or research article for that matter. Short communication can also be used to present the baseline data. Say for example, you're conducting an RCT and you did a baseline study to find out the incidence or to see whether this particular intervention which you're planning may have some effect or not. So those baseline data can also be presented in short communications. Since they have a DOI number attached to it, so you can actually quote this particular work for your later references again. Regarding the tables and figures, which you have rightly corrected, said, and then Dr. Mohan has also supported it. Tables and figures should be minimized as much as possible, and as well as the figures which we are providing, at least for the CT scan and MRI, should be the one which is the most representative of all the sort, rather than sending a group of the CT scan or the MRI image, because that kills the whole idea of sending the MRI or CT scan. I have seen images coming up in groups, 6 or 8 images of the slide of MRI or a CT scan. So that becomes a little bit vague. And then if in case you can put a marker and then explain that marker in the legend attached to the figure, that becomes highly annotated and one can actually see what you are presenting. And regarding the question which was put forward regarding the disclosure, so according to the International Journal of Medical Editors, disclosure has now been made mandatory, because again, editors cannot be put to blame for everything which is being published in the paper. So disclosures have to be made, not only in the sense that anybody who is publishing that paper is not having a financial gain or a financial reasons for publishing it, but also to say that what all data they are putting or quoting in that study is authentic, and they are not hiding anything, or as you have said about data salami sizing, they have not done it. So those disclosures are now becoming mandatory for according to the IAGM protocols. Thank you. If in case there is a question, please ask.
Yeah, can you clarify more on impact factors?
I can do that, but let me ask Dr. Praveen to first start spinning about it. Impact factor, Dr. Praveen.
Yeah, impact factor, it is one of the criteria for ranking or categorizing the journals, scientific journals, which indicates how high is the standard of that particular journal. So the more it is basically done on the basis of the articles which has been cited from that particular journal. So higher is the impact factor, higher is the standard of the journal. For example, I don't know exactly, but the journal which is cancer, for example, cancer journal published by AARC of America, its impact factor is around 7. That means 7 is one of the journals with very high impact factor. Whereas impact factor of probably Neurology India, that is the journal of in the Neuro Society of India. The impact factor of that journal is around probably 1 point something, I guess. So even having this impact factor 1 is quite high. So it doesn't mean the impact factor is less if it has only one impact factor. So even to be for a journal to be included in this impact factor ranking, if the journal is included, even if impact factor 0.1, that is very good. So for for entering this impact factor ranking, there are a lot of criteria that we have to fulfill, that the journal has to fulfill. This is basic about impact factor, but we should try to get impact factor for our journal as well. So once this impact factor, the standard of the journal becomes very high. Briefly.
This any other questions? Can I give a few words?
So there is a question by Dr. Narendra again. So Dr. Pankaj, can you please read that out again?
Yeah, it's for Mohan sir. Thank you, Mohan sir, for your elaboration. Could you suggest alternate way rather than articles to judge one for academic promotions, like exams, vivas, practice? Okay,
Absolutely.
This is
Absolutely.
presentation.
I think there are 6 universities in Nepal currently, and 3 of them have the medical doctors working. So Tribhuvan University, I can say, by assessing the paper, you get maximum of 12 points. Okay, if you write a book writing gives you 5 points. Then you have an interview where you will ask direct question from the expert. It's at 20 points. And there are many ways, how many papers you have done, how many years of exposure you have working in the hospital. So all these collected, you get 150 points, and out of that, if you score 100, then you are promoted. You are bingo, Narendra. So paper writing is not the only thing, but as an academician, I think it is the spinal cord of every academician. In your CV, if your CV doesn't have a lot of paper, then no matter how long your pages of CV is, it just feels tasteless. So I think we need to have as many papers under in your CV as possible. In the West, the amount of fund you get from the granting agency depends on the number of good quality present publication you have. So unfortunately, publication is one of the important things, but there are other things also.
Thank you, Mohan sir. Now at last, I'd like to request Yandai to make some closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Praveen, for excellent presentation. Is it audible?
Yeah, it's audible. Yeah,
it's audible, not visible.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, let me make myself visible too. Okay. So yeah, so it was an excellent talk by Dr. Praveen, and on top of that, Dr. Amit has given his latest regarding NGNS. What the problem which I found when I was the editor is that most of the papers which have been submitted are I think they have been written in a haste, and the editors.
You are muted, I think, Dr. Yam. We cannot hear you.
Sorry, yeah. So what I'm saying is, like, the papers which are usually given to NGNS are given in a very, first draft and in a very informal way. Sometimes the language plus the article, the way it's written is not proper. And most of the times, as Dr. Praveen and Amit would have seen, that we ourselves, we write it, we write them, correct them, do the referencing, plus everything. So I think my humble request to everyone is that to kindly adhere to the NGNS guidelines. As such, NGNS policy, we don't discourage anyone. But for us for a beginner, if you start writing proper paper and according to NGNS style, then I think it'll become more easy tomorrow when you're, when you're doing more research and then you're sending to better and bigger journals in journals. So that's my sole comment in that. And I think the next topic or my suggestion would be like many times authors will present or submit a paper, then we will give them a feedback that there's some problem here. Then everyone feels disappointed as to why, because everyone feels that their research is the best, the case report is the rarest, the finding is the first, or maybe first in Nepal or first in something. But then when you send to the journal, it comes back is not through the scope. There's nothing neat. So we feel very discouraged. So I think my suggestion would be like the next topic should be on why papers are or why articles are rejected. So I think we should have a presentation on that so that we can discuss internationally and nationally as to what are the causes of rejection and what could be done for it. And if an author has an article which is rejected, what should he do? Like many times what happens is like we submit a article to a journal which is rejected. Then we do the same article sent to another journal, it gets accepted. Then I've got few emails. They say that you rejected this article, but I published. So it's sort of like say what mentality is it, but that's not a very good mentality. So we should. I think the next topic should be on why articles are rejected and what should be done. And hopefully, if Dr. Krishna Sharma is okay with it, we could have a talk on that on the next session. And once again, thank you very much, Dr. Praveen, Dr. Mohan, Pankaj, Amit, everyone, all the participants, and looking forward to the next topic. I'd like to now, if Pankaj doesn't have anything to speak, I'd like to hand the mic over to, the remote mic to our president, Dr. Krishna Sharma.
Thank you, Yam. I think the next topic is quite useful. I think I would request Dr. Yam to volunteer to write how the papers are rejected. I guess you also being an editor, I'm sure you have a first-hand experience and as well as knowledge. That would be nice. Okay. About the webinar, Dr. Amit was trying to enumerate what are the next ones and so. So I'm on the line actually. Coming Saturday, I'm speaking on update on cervical degenerative myelopathy. So Dr. Neelam also wanted to do it. Probably it will be on Monday. So probably the Saturday after this. Dr. Yam, you could please talk on it. You will have quite an ample of time to prepare also. Would it be okay?
So that would be, is it 20th of June?
Yes, I think so, yes.
Okay, sure.
So sorry to interrupt. Sorry to interrupt
sure.
here. Krishna sir, well, your presentation is on Saturday. That is, the timing is after 6 o'clock in the evening. Between 5 to 6. Sorry, 5 to 6 in the evening. And then on Wednesday, I will be presenting on peer review. So I will be discussing on most of the things, how the paper gets rejected and what should be done. So, but that will be from the peer reviewer aspect. So that is definitely going to be of help to all the authors who are writing a paper. What should a peer review see, and how a peer review can be impressed with your work. And so that we are going to talk on Wednesday. And Dr. Neelam has decided to present on the next Saturday between 4 to 5. So this Saturday, Dr. Krishna's, that will be 20th.
Okay. So then it should be next Wednesday. It will be 24th June then.
Yeah. And I think you can make a schedule now. Actually, we can say who is saying after, who is speaking on what after, on which dates. So it will be easier.
So if you allow me, can I share my slides so that I can share you the schedule?
Okay.
Dr. Praveen, you need to sign out to your screen.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, Professor Krishna Sharma, Mohan Sharma, and moderators, Dr. Yamruka, Dr. Manoj, and Dr. Amit for coordinating all things. Thank you very much, and we'll see again next time for the more interesting webinar. Thank you very much. I'll sign out.
Namaste.
Thank you, Praveen. Thank you, Yam, and thank you, Pankaj.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Amit.
So if you see, this is the website. This is the NESON webinar schedule. Can everybody see this?
Yeah, we can see that.
So on 13th, that is a Saturday, between 5 to 6 p.m. The topic is updates on cervical degenerative myelopathy, and Dr. Krishna Sharma would be talking on that. Followed by on 17th, that is Wednesday, between 6 to 7 p.m. Wednesday being a working day, I've posted it after 6 o'clock. Peer review, why, what, and how by me. And then on 20th June, on Saturday, between 4 to 5 p.m., the topic is Management of Thoracolumbar Fracture by Dr. Neelam Khatka.
Yeah, thank you, Amit. Thank you, Amit. And I would request all the others also, please try to participate in this webinar as a speaker. I'm sure everybody has got different experiences and knowledge to share. That will be wonderful. You can directly write to me or Dr. Amit to put up in the schedule. And Dr. Amit, probably you can add Dr. Yam's idea also, or you can make it a different session altogether. Okay. You please discuss among yourself and decide on. Thank you, friends. Thank you very much. We really had a very interactive and a very nice and informative session. Thank you very much. Then we'll see you again on Wednesday. And the timing would be, Amit, what is the timing?
6 onwards. 6 onwards.
5 to 6, sir.
6
No, Saturday is 5 to 6.
5 to 6, and
Saturday,
Wednesday is 6 to 7.
6 to 7. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Bye-bye. Stay safe.
Thank you, sir. Stay safe.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.